Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of Jesse Green Live. It must be Wednesday morning, 5:36, because you're here to see this. I got a super special guest today. Jim Krut from Dawn of the Dead in 1978. This is, you might not recognize him right now because the top of his head's there, but this is the helicopter zombie. Right?
I've been known as that, yes, because I'm uncredited, actually. So I can call myself whatever I want, yeah. If you look at the credits for Dawn of the Dead, I'm not in there.
Wow.
It's kind of like the creature from the Black Lagoon, or, you know, who was that? Who was that guy in the suit?
Yeah.
But it's funny, it seemed like people know him. In fact, I did a show in Germany, and I didn't think anybody was going to know me because there are two versions. You know, there's the U.S. version of Dawn of the Dead, the director's cut and such, but there's also the European version, which has me taken out of it for whatever reasons. They also have the music change and a few other things. But people there seem to know me. They all went for the U.S. director's cut. They went
that one.
Yeah, they want authentic stuff.
I was with Jim just a weekend or so ago, and I heard somebody talking to you about, so that's the two different versions that he was talking about, not seeing you in, so you're not in the U.S. version.
I'm in the U.S. version.
Oh, you're in the U.S., but you're cut in the...
Yeah, the financiers who worked in Italy, that was part of what they got in exchange, the European distribution rights. But then they were also able to change the film to what they felt might be European taste or their own redirectional approach to it. So, 'tis what it is, but on the Ultimate Dawn of the Dead DVD sets and most compilations, they will have both. So you can see what people in the other parts of the world were watching.
Oh, that's interesting. And even though you were in Germany and that wasn't in their version, they knew who you were.
They all did. In fact, it was interesting. That was the first show I did in Germany, and it was in Hamburg. And he was there with Lenny Least, David Emge, Ken Faree, Scott Reiniger. And in this room came these guys and gals all dressed in black. About 30 of them. They had these logos, Zombie Squad. And they come from all over Germany, and they are all interested in in zombies and the films. And they just get together periodically like you'd go to a car collector's meet or anything else. And they all came in, and we looked at them and they looked at us and said, "This is really cool." And they said, "These guys are really cool." Anyway, we got together with some of those folks, and some of them then came over to the U.S. and had a couple of them visited here. So we had a great time with them. Some really nice folks, and we did some archery in the backyard here. That was before the development went in there, up behind our little acreage.
Okay.
Used to be a cornfield. Now there are 30 houses. That's what happens in the country sometimes. But we did archery. We did a lot of fun stuff. Tried some of my homemade beer. But anyway, that's aside. But yes.
So had you done movies before that movie?
No, Dawn of the Dead was my first film. I'd done 7 years of live theater on stage and repertory theater. We traveled different locations. In actually 1976, I played Uncle Sam, on the bicentennial. I was in downtown Pittsburgh at the point. I was Uncle Sam. We did a play written about Andrew Carnegie, and the playwright was from Scotland, so then we went over to Scotland and we did the play there, as well as several others at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival for live theater. So most of my background was actually live theater. And Tom Savini, who he and I'd gone to college together at Point Park in Pittsburgh. We'd worked in some student productions in theater. After graduation from college, he went off to Vietnam as a combat photographer, and I went off to Vietnam as a medic. So you never know whether you're going to see your high school friends again or your college friends. But I ended up back in Pittsburgh, and I ran into Tom, and after a few years, and Tom said, "Hey, I've got this great role for you in this George Romero film." Now, the interesting thing is, George Romero was pretty much known for Night of the Living Dead, which was somewhat unrated. And if you were at all concerned about your reputation, there were certain things you needed to watch out for if you wanted to continue to do legitimate work.
Was he one of them?
Well, let's say it could have been considered a little sketchy.
Okay.
So, and you never know exactly what the film's going to be when you're asked to do a part. But I said, sure, let's do it. And I never looked back. I mean, we did it. We did the makeup at Tom's workshop. Got on set a couple weeks later with all the prosthetics. Did the shoot. There about 2 days on set. And then did everything in one take, and the rest became history. But, sometimes people ask questions about a lot of the details, and you oftentimes confuse the details or pick up things that somebody else might have said. But my mind's pretty clear on what happened there. It was because it was so exciting, because it was my first film, and I knew there were certain things you shouldn't be doing, like, "Hey, Mr. Director, I think I can." No.
Yeah.
You learn that in movies, every minute counts, and the clock is turning, and that means money is spinning. So, for the sake of economy, efficiency, and doing a good job, you get it done right, and you listen to the director. And you don't be jumping up and saying, "I've got all these great ideas. What you're doing is crap." Yeah. Thank you. Do you have somebody else, Tom, who can do that role?
Yeah.
No. So
how many takes did it take for the
one take?
We
did everything in
one
one
take. I guess that's lots of times in horror movies when there's you got blood and prosthetics and all involved, you got one take.
We had a second change of outfits, had that all ready to go. All the pieces were ready if we had to do another take. George directed the part where I come out from under the airplane wing, sort of introducing me as a zombie, listening to the helicopter in the distance, and walking across the field, and then pretty much turned it over to Tom Savini to direct. Tom did all the makeup and effects. And so for an effect like this, it's a little complex, so it's a matter of timing. Somebody off camera, on cue, when I step up on the boxes under the helicopter blade, for those who may not know that I stepped up on these boxes under a whirling helicopter blade. Actually, the blade was cut in later. But on cue then, somebody takes off camera with a piece of monofilament line, yanks the top of my head off, which has been put together in a series of chunks with space between. So it's really beautiful to watch. And I'm not just saying that because it's me, but because it was me, I slowed it down and watched it. I thought, that's amazing. So it comes off as a series of chunks. And at the same time, Tom and another guy behind the boxes are pumping these hand pumps with the blood, and the blood tubes coming up the back of the trousers, up the shirt, into the embedded prosthetic pieces. So you have the blood coming out in a couple streams. And the hardest part was figuring out how to fall on a tumble of boxes. And then we did that, and they said cut, and then I kind of looked over, and George was checking out things, and he said, that was great, and your heart just soars, because even if you have to do it again, you think at least you got a good cut in, you didn't screw up, and things went well. But then the next thing is the stab in the heart, and that is, okay, next scene, we got to move on. Because, you've been thinking about this, you've been working on it, you've been through this preparation and attention, and you want to keep playing.
You want to keep...
Suddenly, you're at this crescendo, and it's over.
I know what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about. There's a benefit to being good enough and doing something in one take, but you get that, then it's like, what? Can't we do it one more time? That was fun.
Well, in other
But-
productions, you can do more takes, but sometimes you learn in theater, you have to put yourself out and be your best each take, because you only get one take. It's not like, oh, you missed the line, let's go back. And no, you just keep going because you have the whole script in your head. You have basically everybody else's lines and dialogue in your head, and the action, the cues, the blocking, all that stuff is tumbling around. So if something goes awry, you figure it out on stage, on your feet, and you just keep on going with it.
I was talking to Russell coming up. As busy as what I am, I don't have time to do a play. I don't have time for all the rehearsals. I don't have time for 3 weekends of shows. But there's Potomac Playmakers in Hagerstown, Maryland. They're doing one act play festival. I think the end of June or end of July.
Oh, that's
and
great.
They're having auditions on Monday. And I'm thinking about trying it because I
Do
talked
it.
to somebody involved, and they said rehearsals would be once a week until Tech Week, and then you may be in there every night, getting the staging
Yes.
and everything set up. And I'm like, I can do that.
I think you should. If nothing else, it gives you a different perspective on
It's
acting.
going to scare the crap out of me.
It makes you focus.
Yeah,
It really
yeah.
makes you focus.
Because
It's not, you find it's not just about you walking out there. It's you walking out there in coordination with everybody else who's on stage, whether it's one person, two person, three people. Person who's doing the lighting, you got to be where the light is. You got to be on your spot, whether it's being auditorily enhanced or not. Can you project? Is your voice going to reach the back of that stage or the back of the audience? And a lot of people say, I'm pretty good, I'm pretty natural, and I could just talk like this. And 30 feet away, nobody can hear a word you're saying.
Right.
But that's not the end of the audience. The audience is back there another 40, 50 feet.
Right.
How are they going to hear you? Especially if you don't have a microphone or if it's not amped up. You have to learn to project. So it's a whole other set of skills too.
That's the biggest difference. I just got done an acting class, and that's what was pointed out to me is the big difference between theater and movies. Mm-hmm. Most of the time, you only have to project yourself that far away.
Yes.
In a theater, you got to project yourself to that last person in that very last row.
Not only that, if you're that far away from a camera, it picks up every nuance of your expression. And some of the best stuff is where somebody's looking nervous and they don't change their facial expression, but you see them, swallow nervously, or a little tick, or just a little acknowledgement. Those little things convey so much, but the camera can pick it up.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Stage, no, not so much. That's one of the things that makeup is used for. So if you raise your eyebrow, they can see it a little further in the back. But in theater, you have to be larger. But on a camera, the smallest thing, and your face is 10 foot tall on a screen.
Yeah. Well, projecting myself, and when I work in professional wrestling, I don't have a problem with that. But then I'm an over-the-top character, so that's easy to yell at people and all that. If you're in a play and you're just a normal person at that play, that's going to be a challenge for me to project my voice out so that guy out there can hear me.
And it's not just a matter of volume, because you have to convey the nuances of expression and emotion, all of that with a voice. It's a tool. And a lot of people say, well, I want to be famous, put me on a stage. Okay. Go ahead, be on a stage.
Oh, I'm sure you
got to do the work. You got to do the work.
I'm sure you hear too, when they find out that the business that we're in, they're like, oh, I can act.
Sure.
Yeah, I can. I tell people, up until the last month or so, I never had any acting classes. Everything just was there naturally, good or bad. But it's tougher than what it looks like. An example I like to use, tell people, is in the movie Anna Key. Abigail and I had a scene where we were laying in bed, just she was laying on my shoulder, just an intimate scene, talking. Well, we had somebody straddling us with a camera about this far away, and we had Russell with a boom stuck over here, and we had lights over here,
and somebody yelling, "Act natural!"
Yeah, 2 or 3 other people, and we had to act like we were just laying in bed talking to each other, and and I think we pulled it off, but I'm not sure all these people would say, "Yeah, I can act." Yeah. I'm not sure they put them up there once, put them up there once and try it, because we both have a lot of movies under our belt at this time, and that, folks, that's having a lot of movies under your belt is just a function of age. If we were sitting here at 30 years old, we'd go, yeah, we've done 2 movies, And did you have a time lag between that movie and your next movie?
Oh yeah, let's see, 20-some years.
Oh, I got you beat on that.
Well, you were asking me though. I wouldn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll ask you about you later.
Yeah. No, I got you beat. I got almost 37 years between my first.
And then I got married, 1979. We had our first daughter, and I just decided we're leaving Pittsburgh. The touring, and it was just too much. Plus, Pittsburgh air at the time was still pretty rough. I mean, metal flakes. I like to grow things in the garden. I'd go out and there'd be metal flakes on the tomatoes that would precipitate out overnight. I said, this is not the right place to bring up a kid. So my wife and I agreed we'll just move. We had no job. We just moved out to the country. And then I began some other work. And all that time with that job, other jobs, up to about 2000 when I ended up in the Harrisburg area, and actually Gettysburg then. I was still working in theater whenever I could. And in Gettysburg, we formed Gettysburg Stage. We ran that as a theater company for 7 years. I was the board president for a few years. Did Dracula, one of my favorite roles. We did a lot of great stuff. But theater always keeps you fresh and keeps your mind focused. Plus, you always stay in touch with people who are very similarly passionate.
Right.
But around 2000, that's when I saw a notice for an audition. And it was for a film called Guatemalan Handshake. Don't ask me, but I'll show it to you sometime. But it was up in Harrisburg, so I left work after I was done. Auditions were running till like 7 o'clock. I got up there about 6:30. There's nobody else in the room. And they said, just fill out this form, any other experience, whatever. And then they said, oh, you can go in now. Okay, they're ready. So I went in, gave them the paper, and they just said, well, let's just talk a little bit. So we talked a little bit, and they said, there are 2 guys here, and they said, he'd be great as Kenneth, the power plant technician. I said, well, then, let me know. So I got a call later that night, and the director said, why didn't you tell us you were the helicopter zombie in Dawn of the Dead? I said, I didn't think it was relevant, It wasn't what I was auditioning for. I don't know. Does that mean something to you? And he said, well, yeah, I think it's great. So anyway, I did the role. That was a lot of fun. But that was the first film that I'd done since Dawn of the Dead. After that, still doing a lot of theater. A lot of theater also led to other films, some TV work. We did with Gettysburg Stage, we did the Triangle Factory Fire project, which was about the Triangle Factory Fire in New York back in the 1800s when a garment factory caught on fire, the escape doors were bolted shut, and lots of young women jumped out of the 6th, 7th story windows. It was just a horrible disaster. We actually did that at the Gettysburg Fire Company in their community room. Well, somebody who had seen that, they came to see one of the other actors who was a friend of theirs, but they liked what I was doing in my role and said, hey, we have this role coming up for Lifetime TV, and we would like maybe to be a judge. What would you think? And I said, where? And they said, down in Frederick, Maryland. went to the old courtroom, did the role, and they said, wow, that's great. That's great. We got a call another week or two later, and somebody said, hey, we're doing this show, TV series, and we heard you did really well with this other episode on Lifetime TV, and they went through all of this other stuff, you know, what have you done? Can you do this? And yeah, oh, yeah. Checking off all the boxes. And how tall are you? And I said 6'4". And they said, oh. There was this long pause, and they said, well, thank you very much. We'll maybe get back to you. And so you never know why you get cast.
Yeah.
And you cannot have an ego or get your feelings hurt. You just say, didn't fit the outfit, you know, or maybe I'm too much taller than the person I was supposed to be opposite for whatever reason.
Yeah, lots of times when you get turned down, it's it's something you have to learn, but lots of times it's not personal.
No.
It's just your look didn't fit their image of that character.
Which is already preconceived.
Yeah.
They know what they want, unless you can find for them a reason that makes that character that you're portraying even more special. Scott Reiniger, who was in Dawn of the Dead, one of the leads, he talked about when he auditioned. And they said, well, you know, Ken Foree is like 6'2" or something like that. He's pretty big. You are not quite matching up to that. And Scott said, you know, people will see that on screen, and then that's all they think about. And then they're done with it. I mean, so what?
Yeah.
It's another character.
Yeah.
And then George, yeah, you're right. Okay. George Romero said, great. And Scott got the role. Did a beautiful job with it. So that's another thing. The director goes for the people who can bring the nuances to the role sometime.
Well, what's funny too is, you know, if you weren't 6'4", that blade wouldn't have caught you. If you'd only been 6 foot tall, it would have missed you.
No, you have to think.
And you'd have been.
You have to think in director terms, Jesse.
You'd have been a nobody.
What if they had to take more takes? They'd have kept whittling me down.
Yeah. Actually, before he shot that movie, he was 6'8", and then they took the top of his head off, so he's 6. Yeah,
that was those
it's a good thing.
platform
Yeah,
shoes,
you were
yeah.
just hard in one take. It's a good thing they didn't have to do 4 or 5 takes.
That's right.
You'd have been. Then I'd have been taller than you.
You put everything into it in the first one. You don't say, "Well, let me do it better." No. Every time you do it.
Well, one of my pet peeves is you do a scene, and they go, "That was great. Let's do it again."
Yes.
I hate that phrasing. And a director I worked with, we had a discussion. So now she tells me, you know, that was good, but I think you can do a little bit better. I'll take that.
Oh yeah.
But don't tell me that was great.
Tell me what you're going for.
Yeah.
You want me to scream, or do you want me to go?
Then I guess that wasn't great. If we got to do it again, you know. So don't tell me. Don't blow smoke up my butt and tell me it was great. Tell me what I did that wasn't to your expectations, and I'll adjust if I can.
And actors are very good at accepting direction.
Yeah.
Not knowing what they're supposed to do leads to a lot of, let me try this, let me try that, and it wastes everybody's time.
It does.
Plus the energy just starts to drain out.
I've been on movies, I think, 12, 14 takes, and you just lose the spontaneity.
Yeah.
By that point.
Let's get it done.
Yeah. You know what I tell directors? Film the rehearsal, the run through, because that might be the best you get.
That might be your first energy. That top energy you're going to put out. Yeah.
Make sure you have the camera rolling and everything set up, and because that might be the best you get out of us, because it's.
And that's a good lesson too for directors, particularly for independent films, who think, well, I'm going to point the camera and I'm just, oh, the light's wrong. Let's do it again. Oh, the sound wasn't right. Get that light right.
Yeah.
Get that sound right before you start putting people through their paces.
Yeah.
If you want to see what it looks like, have them walk through it and let them know it's a walk through.
Yeah.
So people don't just keep putting out their best energy. If you want their best energy, you got to know how to bring it out.
That's right.
And that's by being prepared, having everything set up, and not saying, oh, I think looking at it, there maybe we could do something else. Well, you should have thought of that before.
Should have thought it, yeah.
You're wasting everybody's time, and as that clock ticks, money gets lost.
Oh, I hate wasting time on movie sets.
Yeah.
I get there. Unfortunately, in the independent movie business, it seems that there's people in the business that look on movie making and being on set as a social gathering, and it's not. To me, that's when I show up there, I'm showing up to work.
Yeah.
And I want to work. If you say call time is 10 o'clock, I want to be doing something toward the movie by 10:05.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to have to show up at 10 o'clock and then we finally start shooting about 1:30. And then another pet peeve of mine is call time is 10, we start shooting about 1:30, and then about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, they're like, it's getting dark. We got to hurry up.
Yeah.
We know, we know, we got computers, exactly what time that sun is going to set that day. But they'll fool around all day until it gets 4 o'clock and it sunsets at 5:30. Then we're like, oh God, we got to get this done.
Sure.
You knew all day long. The sun just doesn't randomly set on you. We know when it's going to set. And but that's.
Well, if you have a set time in theater, you have to be ready at that time, and that's why I think theater is an excellent training ground for anybody, for any type of acting, because it gives you a discipline. If the show opens at 10 or 8 o'clock, everybody's ready on stage, doing what they're doing, geared up, dressed,
ready to go,
makeup, light, everything's in place. It's not like you people out there wait while we set the light. No, everything has to be right, and you have to come with the right idea, as you say, not a socialization. I did a short film once for a friend, and he said, well, we have this warehouse for the weekend, so we're all going to meet outside. I have the key, we'll unlock it, and I think 6 of us assembled, and one guy said, everybody's right on time. He says, well, I'm going to go over to Sheets and get some coffee. He did, and the director locked him with the warehouse door, and he was written out of the film. Just like that. We didn't really need him, I guess.
Yeah.
So everybody else gets more screen time. Yes, that's what we're all
right.
about. Yeah. But I mean, that's the kind of discipline you can't say, oh, well, he really needs his coffee. No, everybody else came. They had their breakfast. They went to the bathroom. They washed their face. They put on their right shoes and their outfit, and they've got their back stuff.
Well, I try to tell people that are writing screenplays or developing a movie, keep the scenes simple. 2, 3 people in that scene. Mm-hmm. Don't do a whole 15 people in the scene, because the problem is you do that, all you need is one person not to show up the day you want to shoot that scene, and you're done. Or have traffic problems, or keep the scenes simple, and then you don't have to worry. And
be ready to adjust if you need to.
Yeah, be ready to adjust. Yeah. But I like that the guy went and got coffee, got locked out, and that's the way it should be. If people were more strict on independent movie sets, I don't think people would mess around the way they do. But they know.
I think a lot of people are, they call in friends and they want,
they call
and they don't want to offend them. They want to stay friends, but
they call in friends.
You have to call in the friends who are going to have the discipline to do it.
That's right. Yep. So.
So what are you doing now, Jim? What are you involved in?
Where'd that come from?
I heard voices. I think that's that alien, reminded me. Well, what am I doing now? Well, of course, had a couple films that were just being screened, not released. One was The Only Ones, which
Excellent movie.
I just think it's one of the best scripts I've read in a long time.
It was.
And that's Jordan Miller and his team just did an excellent job. I have a small role in it, but a memorable one.
An important role.
An
too.
important role, yeah. So that hopefully
small
will be
roles.
out over the course of the next year. Brandon Salisbury has just working through a documentary on George Romero about the making of Resident Evil. And I was interviewed for that too, and I was just so pleased that things I had to say were relevant to the whole storyline. But the research, the work, the camera technique, I'm just kind of blown away by it. So I hope to see that maybe out, I don't know, within a year also. Those are some nice ones. And then we have Blood and Breakfast, which is a multiple murder film.
Yep.
I think you're in vote. If you want to see movie memorabilia and the story of the making of some of the films of George Romero, Living Dead Museum is right at that end of the mall also.
Okay.
So that alone is worth the trip.
Now, what relationship was John Russo to Romero?
Well, John, they worked together on Night of the Living Dead, and I don't know all the details because I'm not an expert on that film either. I'm an actor. I don't do all the research.
Yeah.
But they worked on it together. So John Russo is pretty good at protecting the rights for like Night of the Living Dead, and he was a writer and a collaborator with George on it.
Okay.
And
But he wasn't involved in
Living Dead Weekend or Dawn of the Dead.
Dawn of the Dead.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
But
I wasn't sure what that relationship was.
But on his
I
own,
heard
he's
that.
done other films like My Uncle John is a Zombie, and
Yeah, that was a funny one.
he was involved. What's the other? There are a couple different films that he's made since then, and he's doing a lot of conventions as well. He's still in good health and still getting around, and it's a great opportunity at the conventions to meet a lot of fans, to get together with a lot of friends you may have worked with in some of those films, and in some cases get offers to do other films or other conventions. So it keeps you on your toes, and you always want to be at your best for the fans. But I have to say, the fans just bring the energy. It's been a real blessing to have been a part of Dawn of the Dead, to be in the Romero cadre, the family, and the whole network with the Romero Foundation, doing shows in the UK and Germany. All of that is because of the role of Dawn of the Dead. So I'm sincerely grateful for that, for Tom Savini for selecting me for the role, for casting me. We still remain friends.
And Tom has done okay over the years. You
Oh,
don't hear about him too often, but
well, he has his own school, the Douglas School of Makeup and Effects near Pittsburgh. People from his school came to Creature Feature Weekend to do the makeup on Bill Moseley and some of the other characters, and they just always do an excellent job. Tom has worked on other films, Django Unchained, and he managed the dogs. And he said, sometime I'll have to tell you about that, but we haven't gotten together where he's had a chance to tell me about that yet. But they look like very vicious dogs, very vicious dogs.
I mean, being a
other
wrestling
films
fan,
he's
I
been
know
involved
Tom
with.
Savini was commissioned to make the mask for Bray Wyatt for his character, the
Oh.
Fiend. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was a pretty elaborate mask.
Are you familiar with the film The Black Phone?
I've heard of it, but
It's a horror film,
Yeah.
but it's also the main character has this mask, and I guess it took more than a year or so. The people who were making the film wanted to get the best interpretation they could of this character into the mask, and Tom and his cadre got the contract to do the mask. So you think, it's just something, give it to somebody and they do it. No, they put so much
Oh,
that
his work is
they
phenomenal.
invested into it that it's memorable. It's like an iconic part of the film. So when you work on it, think of it that way. It's more than just a facial covering.
Yeah.
It's a character. It's a feeling. It conveys the film. So.
Yeah, his work is always phenomenal. When you know Tom Savini is going to be on your movie, working on it, the effects are always going to be
Tom has
great.
always had a passion to do the best he could, to learn as much as he could, to learn from other people who were pioneers in makeup and effects, and from those, of course, people want new effects. So Tom has helped pioneer some of those. Some of those were very practical effects. Almost anything can be done with, computer-generated animation these days.
Yeah, CGI.
But to do it with practical effects, to teach people how to do it for things that can't be done with CGI, like somebody on stage, somebody who's a wrestler.
Right.
How do you do those things? How do you make things convey something of their own as well? So,
Right.
so
Right.
I have
Exactly.
tremendous admiration for that skill set.
Yeah, I'm there. I'm there. So, and I may be speaking out of turn here, but was there a scene added to a movie just to get you into a local movie here lately? And if it was, I'm a little upset about that. How am I ever going to get up to your level in movies if we're in the same movies all the time?
I don't know that we're always in the same movies, Jesse, but I don't recall. All I can say is that
Maybe
I'd worked with maybe 4 different agents at different times.
Oh, see, that's the difference. I don't have an agent.
Well, I don't either anymore. I realize that life is important to me. Acting is important. I like it. I enjoy it. But acting is not life. I'm here in my backyard, sitting in our little gazebo. I got, the flowers are going. The vegetables are starting to grow up. The berries. The people I know, the family, that's life.
Yes. Yeah.
And everything else is an enhancement, just part of the blessing.
I was talking about your shooting a scene for Heavy Duty Man.
Oh, well, that had been in the script for.
Oh, had it been in the script?
Oh, yeah, that's been.
Oh, okay.
That was in
you
the
just
script.
They couldn't.
It was a matter of timing and schedules.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So after that, that had been planned for some time. And Tom Toohey was the director, and I said, Tom, look, if we can't get our schedules together, please, just get somebody else. I don't want to be holding up the works. He said, I want to have you in it. So after we finished the 4-State Comic-Con in Hagerstown, went over to Tom's place, had his cameraman, had his sound man. We knocked that out in about half an hour or less, and I felt good because it felt like we got it done. He said, that was great. Everything was prepped. He said, you're ready. Well, we just made up the script at the time. I went with the lines, but we changed the opening setting because this appears in the opening. From being outside to being indoors. So we just did some modifications, but you get used to adapting.
Yeah.
And they made it easy for me. That's going to be coming out at some time too. Heavy Duty Man, another film.
Yeah, it should be coming out.
I think that's going to be very colorful.
Later this year.
I hope so.
I know.
Now that I'm done holding up the works.
I know Russell and I were supposed to do a scene in, I don't know, were we going to be in the same scene for Creekfoot? We were supposed to do a scene, and we ended up going to Florida when it was the weekend we were supposed to shoot. So they said, okay, we'll reschedule it. And then when they rescheduled it, it rained that weekend. Then they're like, we'll reschedule it. Well, it never got rescheduled, so we weren't in Creekfoot.
That was a fun movie.
Oh, when I
liked that.
went to watch, we both agreed. We were like, man, I want to be in that. I want to be in that project. I want to be in that.
That's a sign of a good film when people say, "Oh, I wish I was in that."
Well, I was a little concerned because first movie for Bone, as fast as it came out, because we know editing takes with some people takes a couple years, and that came out real quick.
Yes.
I was apprehensive about how good the movie was going to be, but man, once I saw it, I was blown away. That for I don't know, that was a found footage type movie, but for a docu, what do they call it? A docu.
Mockumentary.
Mockumentary.
Yeah, mockumentary.
Thank you.
Thank you, voice from above.
Thank you. A mockumentary. That was excellent. That was excellent. I drove down to Charlotte a couple months ago to deliver 3-4 lines in a scene for the movie's called Children of the Woods, and it's that same. What's that name again?
Mockumentary.
Mockumentary.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Mockumentary. And it's going to be. I don't know. What was it called for the Only Ones? That wasn't a premiere. That was a.
No, that was a screening.
A
that
screening.
was just a test screening.
Okay.
And it's not unusual for directors to want to have some audience reaction. Think of it as a focus group. Hey, wow, I thought everybody was going to laugh at this, or I thought everybody was going to scream at that. But you find out people are reacting differently to what you might have thought or thought you were engineering to provoke a reaction. And some people might say, well, you know, there's this gap in the storyline. And that has happened, I think 1 or 2 times in previous films I've been involved with where they said, you know, there was no explanation as it went from here to there, and so we need to do that bridge.
Yeah.
So it's really good to have that kind of feedback,
yeah,
especially early on before you put it out there as a final piece.
Yeah, I know when I went to the premiere of Anna Key, because I had told people that, you know, it was a serious movie. I said there's very few laughs in it, but then when you're in a theater with a group of people, there'd be a scene or somebody would say something and the crowd would laugh.
There's a different energy.
And I'd be like, because I was sitting right next to my co-star Abigail, and I'd lean over and go, I didn't take that as funny when we did that. And she goes, I didn't either, but you know, that's
how people see it.
Yeah, that's how it was filmed. And it's I mean, because I had seen the movie probably 13, 14, 15 times. Oh. But through different versions, and but to see it first time in a theater with a crowd, man, I hope it never gets because this was Abigail's first movie, and this was the first time she saw herself on the big screen, and it was cool to be there and enjoy that with her, and I hope it never gets old seeing yourself on the big screen. You know, because it's
well, sometimes you feel like you become your own worst critic.
Oh yeah,
it's very exciting, but you think, oh man, I wish I put a little more energy here, or didn't go like this when I should have been doing something else.
But that because of what we do, that privilege of being able to see ourselves on the big screen is an experience that most people never get to experience.
Right.
You know, and it's I hope it never gets old. Hope it never gets old.
We may get old, but movies go on.
We still have 20, 30 years left, don't we?
Nah.
I mean, we can do. How many movies do you think we can squeeze in?
I don't even want to guess. But all I can say is the nice thing about film is it continues. We still talk about some of our famous film stars.
Exactly.
Our horror icons, you know, Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff and Lon Chaney, and those guys are memorable. They live on in the hearts and minds of so many millions of people.
Yeah, and our films
if we strive to do something like that, gee, if somebody remembers me as the helicopter zombie 50 more years from now, I'll think, well, I'm certainly glad, and I hope it brought them a little bit of a thrill in their life. You know, I'll feel touched.
You know, there's an old saying, and we'll end it with this, that you die 2 times. You die the day you die, and you die the last time your name is mentioned on this earth. And hopefully what we do, Jim, It'll be 50 years from now. And somebody will still go, hey, that helicopter pilot, right?
Yeah,
we're
zombie
still-
roll, yep.
We're still.
I remember that zombie.
Yeah, I mean, well, he looks a whole lot. That was, how many years ago was that now? That was in
46.
46
But
years
who's
ago.
counting?
46 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
The heat's picking up in the day, and Jesse,
Yeah, it is.
I
It
wish
is.
you wish you continued success.
Oh,
bud. Thanks for having
thank-
me on the show.
Oh, thanks for coming on,
and
Jeff.
thanks to that voice above, Russell.
Yeah.
Wherever you happen
Where'd
to be,
that come
buddy.
from?
You're welcome.
Oh, listen, he's going to want to play God in the next movie. You know that.
Not a bad
You know
role.
that.
Not a
Yeah,
bad
that's
role.
not a bad role. And he kind of looks like God when he's got the beard and
Just needs a little
needs
bit
to
of a
grow his
halo.
Hair,
Yeah.
well, and hair a little longer.
I think some flowing robes would be good.
That'd be good. That'd be good. Yeah.
No
And
sweat.
lights behind him. You know. Ah.
Okay, enough about me. Let's talk about Jim.
No, we're done.
Yeah,
we're
we
done.
already said.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Okay,
a wrap.
okay.
It's a wrap.
Yep. And thanks for joining us today. I wanted to do this for a long time. And join us next Wednesday at 5:36 a.m.